CD Pavilion. I hope you had a great lunch. Great. It's so good to see so many smiling faces here today. As you're aware, land restoration offers numerous benefits for entire communities, and there are specific advantages for women given their unique roles, responsibilities, and challenges in many societies. And on this, to wish everyone in advance a happy International Day of Rural Women on 15th October. So for those who may not be aware of our initiative, the G20 Global Land Initiative was launched in 2020 at the G20 Riyadh Summit. The Group of 20 is a group of the world's largest economies, which includes 19 countries, including the European Union and the African Union as well. The initiative's activities include organizing capacity building and training programs, showcasing best practices, and sharing information and data. So we hope to engage with all stakeholders in our activities, including women land professionals and women organizations. Currently, we engage closely with the gender workstream of the International Federation of Surveyors, which comprises of national member associations and covers the whole range of professional fields within the global surveying community. So our senior gender expert, IB Kakulu, who some of you may know, has recently published a paper halting land degradation through equitable land access and land ownership by women, as well as contributed to FIG publications and discussions. The UNCCD also has its Her Land campaign to promote women's land rights. And next year, we aim to hold a roundtable of experts who work on the linkages between gender equality and land restoration. So we hope to engage with you all in some way and integrate a gender perspective in our efforts to achieve land degradation neutrality and our global goals on ecosystem restoration. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Her Excellency Hamida Kibwana Ali, Senator of Kenya. Currently, she serves as the chairperson of the Kenya Women Senators Association and is a member of the Health, Justice, Legal, and Human Rights and the County Public Investments Committee in the Senate of Kenya. Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Joanne. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon again, everyone. I was still enjoying her speech. I thought she was making a speech. Then she literally calls me. I don't know whether I'm still ready for my speech. Thank you, UNCCD, Joanne Approver, for inviting us here. I want to acknowledge my colleagues, Senator Tabitha Mutinda, one of our youth senators, and my other colleague, Senator Beatrice Ogola, a very strong senator from Homa Bay. We are all here, and we are hoping that we're expecting one more senator, Senator Esther Okenyuri. Thank you for the invitation. I will proceed with my speech, and then if there's any other business or matters arising, Joanne, I'll be ready to acknowledge or to respond to any issues. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, esteemed participants, good afternoon. I am honored to stand before you today representing the Kenya Women Senators Association, called KEWOSA. Kenya Women Senators Association, KEWOSA. I think I'm so used to KEWOSA that I always... KEWOSA is Kenya Women Senators Association. At this Global Landscape Forum, 2023 Nairobi, in this side event organized by UNCCD G20 Global Land Initiative, our gathering is not merely as of minds, but a testament to our shared commitment to advancing the theme, why control and ownership of land by women matters in land restoration. This discourse is not just a dialogue, it is a call to action, recognizing the indispensable role of women in land restoration and the urgent need to secure women land rights in the face of climate change, a topic of immense significance in our global pursuit of sustainable development. In this journey, we explore the profound nexus between land restoration, secure women land rights, and addressing climate crisis. Our focus will be on sharing knowledge and examples of successful practices by women actively engaged in restoring land in the highlands, rangelands, and coastal areas of Kenya. As we explore this critical intersection, we recognize the invaluable contributions of women across Kenya who are actively engaged in restoring our land. Their stories, marked by resilience and innovation, underscore the transformative power of women's involvement in land restoration. In every corner of Kenya, women have emerged as stewards of the land, employing sustainable practices that rejuvenate ecosystems. The distinguished ICRAF campus, the backdrop for today's significant event, stands in close proximity to the renowned Karura forest. This serves as a poignant tribute to the unwavering resilience and selfless sacrifices embodied by the late Nobel laureate, Professor Wangari Maathai, whose legacy is deeply interwoven with the protection and conservation of this verdant expanse. Allow me to share inspiring stories of women-led initiatives that have become beacons of hope for land restoration. Now, I'll start with Laikipia Women's Initiative for Rangeland Restoration. In Laikipia County, women have taken the lead in reversing land degradation through sustainable land management practices. Their efforts in rationalizing grazing and community nurseries have not only restored rangelands, but have also become models of sustainable livelihoods. Mazingira Women Group in Coastal Conservation. Along the coastal areas, the Mazingira Women's Group in Kwale County is actively involved in mangrove restoration. Through community-based initiatives, they contribute to the restoration of coastal ecosystems, safeguarding biodiversity, and mitigating the impacts of climate change. Samburu Women's Collective for Highland Restoration. In the highlands of Samburu, women have initiated community-led efforts to restore degraded landscapes through agroforestry and soil conservation practices. Their comprehensive approach includes community training programs, advocating for sustainable agriculture practices, and actively participating in reforestation activities. This initiative not only contributes to land restoration, but also strengthens the resilience of communities facing the impacts of climate change. The women-led conservation initiatives in Machakos. In the semi-arid region of Machakos, women have pioneered water conservation initiatives to combat land degradation through the construction of sand dams, terracing and tree planting. These women are actively involved in restoring degraded land. Their efforts have led to improved water availability for agriculture, reducing soil erosion, and enhancing the overall health of the land. Agroecological farming practices in Meru. Women in Meru County have embraced agroecological farming practices to restore degrading soils and improve agricultural productivity. By incorporating organic farming methods, crop rotational, and the use of cover crops, they contribute to soil fertility and biodiversity. These practices not only restore the land, but also promote sustainable land resilience farming system. The last but not the least is the Maasai women's beekeeping for ecosystem restoration. In the Maasai community, women engage in beekeeping as a sustainable livelihood and a tool for land restoration. By placing beehives strategically in degrading areas, they encourage plant regeneration and pollination. This initiative not only restores ecosystems, but only provides an alternative income source for women in traditional pastoralist communities. These examples demonstrate the diverse and impactful ways in which women in Kenya are actively engaged in land restoration efforts, from rangelands to highlands to coastal areas. Women-led initiatives showcases the potential for sustainable practices that restore land, enhance biodiversity, and improve community resilience. Recognizing and amplifying the voices of these women is essential, and scaling up successful approaches to land restoration in Kenya. The interconnectedness of land restoration, secure women land rights, and climate change resilience is undeniable. Women's active participation in land restoration is not only environmental imperative, but a pathway to achieving broader societal goals. Secure land rights empower women economically. By owning and controlling land, women can engage in sustainable livelihoods, breaking the cycle of poverty and contributing to community development. This charter reminds us that the rights and dignity of women in land ownership and restoration are not just aspirations, but legal and moral imperatives. Let us, as a nation and as a continent, strive to create a future where women's land rights are not only guaranteed in our national laws, but also celebrated as a testament to our commitment to human rights, equality, and sustainable development. While acknowledging progress in legislation that empower women's gaps persist in ensuring equal land rights for women, legislative reforms are imperative to address challenges as matrimonial property rights, strengthening laws to ensure equitable distribution of matrimonial property upon divorce or the death of a spouse, access to credit, implementing policies that facilitate women's access to credit and financial resources, enabling them to acquire and invest in land, community land tenure, advocating for inclusive community land tenure, systems that recognize and protect women's land rights. As KEWOSA, that's Kenya Women Senators Association, we are committed to championing legislative reforms that are gender sensitive and guarantee equal rights to land ownership and control for women. However, this journey requires collaboration with stakeholders across sectors. It is a call for advocacy, not just within legislative chambers, but within communities and civil society. In conclusion, the role of women in land restoration is not just a matter of environmental conservation, it is a matter of justice, empowerment, and resilience. Let us work together to bridge legislative gaps, amplify the voices of women, and create a future where control and ownership of land by women are not just aspirations, but undeniable realities. Ladies and gentlemen, together, we can pave the way for a future where women not only play a significant role in land restoration, but also have the control and ownership of land they rightfully deserve. It is not just a matter of equality, it is an investment in a sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Senator, for your key remarks. Now I would like to introduce our moderator for this event, Esther Mwaura Muru, Global Advocacy Director for the Stand for Her Land campaign, who will moderate this event and filled with many esteemed speakers.
I'm so delighted to be asked to facilitate this session, but I'm even more delighted to speak after Senator Hamadi, because three things that she's mentioned, there is a principal reason why this session is in this Global Land Forum. One, it's because securing women's land rights is fundamental to anything we want to talk about women's empowerment and women's human rights. Everything. Whether it's gender-based violence, whether it's economic justice, whether it's dealing with climate crisis, securing women's land rights is fundamental. She also said something very critical, that no one can do it alone. And that is why with the G20 Global Land Initiative that we have partnered to convene this session. And the last thing that she said, and definitely not the least, is the role that grassroots women play. And she actually laid to us a number of initiatives in different counties in Kenya of what is happening. And for me, what I took, her being a very senior government official, in a state agency, is the recognition that women, rural women, indigenous women, grassroots women are not our beneficiaries of the activities we are doing. They are core implementers, they are core drivers of all the solutions that needs to be done. Thank you so much, Senator. That's very critical. So without much ado, I have the big pleasure, of course, to invite the grassroots women to share with us more stories following the highlights we've just gotten. And I will desist from telling you their bios because I wanted to say a little bit about each of the institutions where they are coming from so that you understand how we are partnering. Like you heard, my name is Esther Moira Moiro. I come from the Stand for Highland campaign. I'm the global director, and the campaign is about partnering with states and other civil society organizations and grassroots women to implement policies, legal framework, international commitments to advance gender equality and women's human rights, centering, securing women's land rights as critical to that. And then, of course, you heard about the G20, and we have also the International Land Coalition, Africa, and the Africa coordinator is here. He'll be talking to us. It is a global organization network of civil society entities that advance land governance, including women's land rights. And then we have GROOTS Kenya, which is a grassroots women's organization, and we will have key speakers from there. So I want to invite the first bunch of our speakers, and the first on the list is a rural woman from Tana River, Jamila Gamashana. Please come up front. She's a grassroots woman working in Tana River. Thank you very much. She's from GROOTS Kenya. And then we have Sharon Auma from Pada district in northern Uganda, one of the local implementing the Stand for Highland campaign as part of the UKOBAC and the National Land Coalition in Uganda. And then we have a young woman called Julia Nyambura from Laikipia County. She will be telling to us why land matters of young people. So this is our panel to begin with. Do you have another microphone? Oh, this is it? Okay. Is it on here? Okay, hold this. So thank you very much. You can see how Jamila is ready to tell us her story. Thank you, Jamila. So Jamila, tell us something about yourself and 2 key things that you want us to know about your community.
Kwa majina naitwa Jamila Gamachana Abdalla. Mimi ni Mpokomo, mkaaji wa Tana River na champion wa Kangalika Tujinue. Mimi ni mkulima. Na mimi community ya Kipokomo tuliungana kama kikundi, tukakuwa na makabiliano ya group kwa jamii zetu, kukubaliana shamba kulima.
Jamila. Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie and I will be translating for Jamila. So her name is Jamila Gamashana. She's a grassroots woman from Tana River County. Kangalika, she's the leader of Kangalika Women Group. That's a women group in Tana River County, and she has said that they came together as the women of Kangalika to form the group, and she was just explaining the process that they were going through. She said she's also from the Pokomo community, which is a community that thrives, that lives in Tana River County. Yes.
Na baada ya kubaliana tupate hiyo shamba kwa jamii zetu, tulipitia kwa upande wa chief, na chifu tukakubaliana mkataba wa kulima hiyo shamba.
So she says that they approached the men in the community when they wanted to start the farming. She is a farmer. So they approached the men to negotiate for them to be given some land, after which once they were given permission, they then went to the chief. So then they could be to write a memorandum of agreement between them, the chief, as well as the men of the community, to show that they have been given that land to farm on.
Na wakati tulikubaliana, tukaanza ukulima 2020. Ilikuwa na msitu, ilikuwa na visiki, tukatoa visiki, tukafyeka, tukatoa visiki, tukaanza ukulima. Kabla tupate machine na pipe, tukaanza ukulima wa tomato na sukuma na pojo.
Sorry. So she says they started farming in 2020 as a group. And at that time they did not have any water, any piped water, any water that was close to them was quite far. And they came together as the women once they were given the land and decided to fence a small part of it and start planting tomatoes, sukuma wiki, and pojo, which is green grams. Yes.
Na wakati tulianza na hiyo hatukukuwa na akaunti, bali tulianza wakati tukianza hiyo ukulima ndio tukafungua akaunti na tukaanza kuwekeza akaunti yetu pesa baada ya kuwa tunalima na kujiendeleza. Wakati huo ambao tulianzia hatukukuwa na hizo pipe, baadaye tulikuja tukapata pipe na machine.
So they started their farming. They never used to have even a bank account. So once they came together as a group, they opened the bank account, and the proceeds from what they are selling after they farm is what they are putting in their bank account. At that point in time, as she has said, they had no piped water. They had nothing to help them clear the land, which was a very tough process. They had to, she said the land was quite, she's describing it as a shrubland forest. So they had to clear everything by hand, just themselves, and then use a makeshift fence to just set apart their own land and then start farming. So she's talking about how the farming has allowed them to be economically empowered by opening up a bank account for the group.
Na mapato tunayopata kwa shamba yetu tulianza na kidogo, sahi tuko na tunajiendeleza, na shamba hii ni kubwa. Tulifeka shamba ekar 6 na shamba iko kama ekar 15, na hizo haijafekewa na haijatolewa vigingi, na tuko na sahihi mapato tuko nayo kwa shamba. Tumelima pojo, tukalima mahindi, tuko na tomato, na hiyo shamba ambayo tuko nayo sahihi inaonesha kwamba inatuonesha iko na pesa ambayo tunawekeza kwa akaunti, kwa sababu tunauza na tunasaidia watoto, tupeleka shule na tunajisaidia hata sisi. Nyumbani kwetu tunapata chakula, tunasaidika kwa jamii yetu. Na hiyo shamba ambayo tunaona iko na manufaa kama inavyoonesha, na tunaonesha kwamba tuko na uwezo wa kujiendeleza, kwa sababu hiyo shamba tumeweka eka 6 na eka zingine ziko tunaendelea na kufyeka, na tumefesi ya madhenge, na tunajiendeleza ahadi hapa paka kule ambao tunafikia. Lakini tuko na tuko na ile shida ya kuwa kule ambako tunaenda hatuna ile uwezo wa kuifeka tuimalize ile shamba. Kuna vigingi, kuna msitu, na inaonesha ya kwamba tuko na nguvu, kwa sababu kwa ule usaidizi ambao tumesaidiwa na hizi pipe na machine, tunataka kujiendeleza. Na tunaomba vile tulivyo sisi tunavyoona, tuangazie kwa sola na tuangazie kwa face, ili ifesiwe shamba, ili na itufeke ile msitu imalizike na vigingi, tuweze kujiondoa hapa chini tufike ahadi huko juu.
So she says her group was actually given 15 acres of land by the community, but they were only able to use 6 acres because they are not able to fence all the 15 acres of land. As I had said, they are using locally sourced material, something called madhenge. It's a plant that does well in very arid areas. So that is what they are cutting up and trying to set up the palm. But she's also said that the challenge that they are facing in that is the lack of fencing, which has brought them problems because they are not able to use the rest of the land that they were given.
Thank you, Jamila. I think you've shown how access and control of land by Lura women is beneficial to supporting the entire community, and that you are working as a collective, so demonstrating that women groups actually do things that are progressive. I think my question, what I have in mind is, how are you able to conserve the land so that even as we farm, as we continue to make to get benefit out of the land, how are we conserving it? And that's a question you can answer later. So I wanted to go to Sharon Auma. Sharon, Stand for Highland campaign in Uganda is working with the government to implement laws and policies, but I know you are also working with communities to deal with social norms. Please tell us a bit about yourself. Why is it that you have preferred to remain in your community and to really advocate for secure women's land rights, where you could have gone to the cities and got employment there?
Thank you, Esther. My name is Sharon Auma from the northern part of Uganda, working closely with the grassroots. The Greater North has Acholi sub-region, Karamoja sub-region, and Lao sub-region. I consider myself a grassroots woman. I was born in northern Uganda, studied in northern Uganda, had opportunities of working in Kampala and other cities, but decided to work home because I understand the community very well. I know what it means by defining women land rights. When it comes to women land rights, everyone talks about access, control, ownership, But in my region, for the women, it ends at access. You have no right to talk about ownership. You have no right to talk about control. This is majorly because the local community where I come from has a strong tie on cultural and spiritual norms when it comes to land. The society defines us as women, defines how we should access even the land. I am a mother, I am married, my husband has land, but that land is named after me, but that name is just for everyone to know that that land is for Mama Abigail. And it ends at that. So as a grassroots woman, as an educated woman in my community, we are trying so much to ensure that the link in the cultural perspective and the spiritual perspective, it shouldn't affect women so much in access, control, and ownership. Yesterday when we were in the conference hall during the ILC presentation, I quoted something very important. The quote is, "You cannot talk about land restoration without bringing in the aspect of land rights." So that is some quote that it's very important because I'm taking it home since I work directly with the grassroots women and the Stand for Her Land campaign.
I'll come back to you, Shalon, and what I would like you to share with us is for the women that you have worked with under the Stand for Her Land campaign, how has access, control of land helped them in their work to restore degraded land? And as you think about that question, I want to come to our young panelist, Julia. Julia, tell me about yourself and what are the two key things you want us to hear about your community? And tell us about what does land mean to you as a young woman?
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'm so delighted to share my story as a young indigenous leader. My name is Julia Nyambura. I'm very delighted to share my story as a young indigenous young leader. My name is Julia Nyambura. I come from Laikipia County, and as a young girl or a young woman, I believe land is everything. Land is life. Without land, there's no life. Because where I come from, I have inherited land from my father. After being in the cities for long, and as I had a passion in farming, in agriculture, I went back home, and my parents saw the passion in me, and they told me, no, you have to take this land, you have to do something productive in this land. That's how I gained land from my father, and he's very happy for what I'm doing now. I've been able to inspire my community. I did a contract farming with a company, with one of the companies there, and it's about herbs that inspired my community so much. After 1 year, I was the only one who had been contracted by the company, but after 1 year, the company had been able to contract more than 100 farmers through the herbs farming. Yeah, that's
Thank you. So Shalon, I want to come back to you, and I want to hear, how has access and control of land by women helped to restore land?
Thank you, Esther. Stand for Her Land campaign recognizes so much the cultural institution and recognizes the fact that these cultural institutions promote an understanding of land restoration. So Stand for Her Land campaign basically is looking at the concept of women understanding their land rights when it comes to access, control, and ownership. And we have registered successful stories on that. So as we all know, I don't know if it's in every society, but in my community, women take all the responsibilities of their homes. And this is through the small chunk of land that they have. They do a lot of agriculture. And in northern Uganda right now, women are the ones burning a lot of charcoal. So since they know that this land that they have, this land that they've been talking about, they also understand their rights when it comes to access, control, and ownership. They are trying so much to ensure that there's that aspect of sustainability of that land. Because this is the only thing they have to ensure that their families can eat, their children can go to school. So what they're doing with this land that they have the cultural knowledge that when you want your land to be fertile, when it's already degraded, this is what you can do. So they are doing a lot of agroforestry. They're planting a lot of trees. They are doing crop rotation because they know that this is our land. I can access it, I can control it. Despite that, I am the one taking care of my family. So in order for this land to stand, I have to ensure that there's that aspect of sustainability. So they are doing a lot of cultural knowledge that they inherited from their mothers, from their ancestors, that you need to do this, you need to do agroforestry, you need to do crop rotation in order for your land to remain fertile and in order for your family to grow. So that is basically what they are doing.
Asante sana Shalon. Jamila, hiyo ardhi mumefyeka, unasema mumepewa 15 acres tayari na wazee wa kijiji. Na umetuelezea tayari mnatumia ekari 6. Sasa najiuliza, hiyo ardhi mkiitumia ilikuwa na forest, si ndio? Na unajua tunasema forest ndio inafanya ardhi ikae na ile uzito yake haitaharibika. Hata anga ya hewa ikigeuka, hiyo inaisaidia. Sasa mimi najiuliza, nyinyi mmekuwa watu wa kuharibu ardhi na ama munafanya kivipi hiyo ardhi mkitumia itasaidia nyinyi na isaidia watu wale watakuja nyuma yenu, wajukuu na wajukuu wenu? So I'm just asking, you know, she told us they've already gotten 15 acres. They negotiated with the clan to get 15 acres to farm that land. And now they are using 6 acres. They still have to use the other acres for farming. So I'm asking her, you know, for us who are in conservation, we believe the land should remain the way it is. And especially when we are talking about climate change and not really tilling too much of it, but we also understand there has to be economic empowerment and use of it. But so the question is, how are they balancing to make sure they are protecting the land for generation to come, and by their farming they are not degrading the land?
Asante. Kwa kuitengeza ardhi ikuwe manufaa kwetu sisi, paka kwa jamii zetu, paka kwa watoto wetu, ni kuonesha kwamba wakati kitambo ambao tulikuwa sisi ni wakulima, ukifyeka ardhi inakuwa na nguvu, kwa sababu ile misitu ya kunyenyekea kwa uchafu wa kulima huwa unakuwa na rutuba. Lakini kwa masaa haya mafundisho tuko nayo, ardhi ukianza kuifyeka, ukiwa unaanza ukulima, unalima vitu tofauti.
Okay, so what she says is previously they would just clear the entire land. That is what they knew. That is what they knew as farming. But now, because of the training that they have received and the information that they now have, They do not clear the way that they used to, and what they do now is plant different crops.
Na kitu ingine ambao tulipata mafundisho kwa mahali tofauti tulipitia ya kwamba fertilizer, kuna fertilizer ya mavi ya ngombe na ya mbuzi. Kama shamba unalima, hiyo ukifuatilia na kuchukua na kuweka kwa shamba, ndio mchanga, ndio unaleta rutuba, ndio ukulima ambao unalima ndio unakuwa mzuri. Na usipitie kwa ukulima saa zote ukiulima ule mchanga kwa muda mrefu, ndio unapoteza nguvu ya mchanga. Ndio vile nimeona mimi kwangu.
So what she's saying is that from her experience, she's been taught that they should only use organic fertilizers. So they are only using, how will I say it? Dung, cow dung and goat dung on their farms. Yes, they're not using inorganic fertilizers. They've also been told to do minimum tillage. So they let the land rest for a long time so that it can maintain the fertility. Yes, and when she said about the planting of different crops, she had mentioned it's tomato, maize, as well as green grams. So they plant in rotation to ensure that the fertility of the soil remains as is, and they can continue to use that land for a long time.
Before I ask them some round of questions, maybe one each, I'd like to know if you have any question for them. Anyone who has a question for them? And Senator here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Wahomina from University for Development Studies, Ghana. She said they negotiated for the land. I want to know the negotiation. Was it a contract based? Was there some payment? How was it done? Thank you.
Give to Senator.
Thank you. Senator Bitu Zogola is my name, a member of the Lands and the Environment Committee at the Senate. My question goes to Auma from Uganda. How favorable are the succession laws in Uganda to women in particular? What challenges do they have over succession?
I want to give Jamila and Sharon to answer those two questions.
Ukitaka kujua sisi vile tulipitia kwa jamii zetu kwa kuipata hiyo shamba, hatukuirithi na hatukuiform na pesa. Tulikubaliana, tulikaa chini na jamii zetu kwa vile hawana na sisi hatuna. Tukaona ya kwamba tusaidiane, tulishikana kama kitu ambacho muungane, alafu mujitoe, mujue mnatafuta kwa kulingamana kwa vile mmepeana. Sasa tumekuwa kwa usaidizi ni kupeana, tumekubaliana kusaidiane. Kile ambacho kinatoka pale shambani hata wao wasaidike, kwa sababu sisi hatuna na hata wao hawana. Hatuna tukuwasaidia. Tumekubaliana mkataba mmoja, tulime kwa pamoja, kinachotoka kwa shamba tuko pamoja. Washindwe ni washindwe wao, lakini sisi tumiliki pamoja, tulime pamoja, ahadi mahali tulitoka mpaka juu. Na saa hii tuko pamoja.
Wazee wamempatia hiyo kwa muda gani hiyo shamba?
Hiyo shamba walitupatia kama miaka 50, lakini kwa serikali ile ambayo tuko nayo haikuwezekana, kwa sababu hiyo miaka 50 si tunakula paka kwa watoto paka kwa wajukuu, tunabeba yote. Tumeona tukienda mahali tukifikia tunajiongeza tukiwa tuko pamoja. Ndio sababu tumesema hatukuinunua, tumekubaliana tuwe mkataba mmoja, tushikane pamoja kwa zile shida tuko nazo. Hatuwezi kununua shamba, tumeelewana.
So what Jamila has emphasized really is the men also from the community that she's in don't also have anything. They are poor, the women are poor. So what happened is they had a sit down together and agreed that they need to help each other. They need to come together because there is no food in the community. No one is earning anything out of that land. So they had to sit down together and agree together that we need to work on this land so that whatever comes out from that land, even them who have nothing, the men, benefit. Because the men are their husbands. They live in the same households. So the food that is coming from that land is also going to the men. And that is what they agreed on. And now they are working together and they are working in harmony. And they have agreed to work together always. She has also said that they were given the land. The community agreed to give them the land for 50 years, but the government could not agree. So they will keep adding, but they will keep adding the years together. Consistently sit down together, and that is the one thing she's emphasizing. They're working together with the men. Yes.
So Sharon, quickly, I can see our time is up.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. According to the Constitution of Uganda, it's very clear. Both women and men have equal rights to access, control, and ownership. But we live in a society whereby we are defined by culture, you know, and culture says the contrary. So constitution-wise, it's okay, but when it comes to culture, the men always take the bigger part. That is the reason why Stand for Her Land currently is working closely with the cultural institution to ensure that there is a rapport between these two laws, the national laws and the cultural laws. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to go to Julia, and I would like you to give us what are the things that you see as key barriers in your community when it comes to women accessing land, and how does that implicate in restoring degraded land?
Thank you so much, Esther. The largest barrier in our community is the culture, as Sheila has said. Culture has been a big barrier. Although the law states that women have the right to own land, but culture has been, it's like we are believing in the culture. We are still in that shell of the culture. And it's really affecting our women because women, when we talk about rural development, it's about investing in women in agriculture. We really need to be out of that shell, to come out of that shell of the culture that is diminishing our economic reproduction. Thank you.
What would you want the world to know that needs to be done for women to have control of land so that we can help? You see the ambition we have there? We are saying that by 2040, we want to reduce the degraded land globally by 50%. So we are saying there's so much land that is degraded. By 2040, we want to reduce that degraded land by 50%, right? And we have, from what you've said, it's important for women to own land so that we can help this. What do you want the world to do? One thing, one sentence. Say, who would you want to do something to support the rural women, the indigenous women, to contribute to that? So I start with you.
Thank you. When it comes to land degradation, the grassroots women are always affected. So they will ensure so much that there is restoration of land. So to the world, yesterday I was asked a question, who do you trust when it comes to land restoration? So I would call upon the world to work together with the grassroots women to ensure that the aspect of land restoration is culturally approved. Basically that. Thank you.
I would like to say it's about you and me. Before we talk about the entire world, it's about you and me right now, in the present. Let's not talk about the future. Let's talk about the present, then the future. Let's empower grassroots women. Let's support them in training. Let them have that knowledge of what they are doing to restore the degraded land. And let's have the grassroots women in the front line. And let's engage them in the land rights campaigns so that they empower the women in the rural areas. Thank you.
Kwa kuonesha kwamba wamama ama wasikilizaji kwa kuelewa tuhifadhi kwa mchanga usiharibike, si kulima mara kwa mara, na ukiwa unalima ukulima wako ambao unaweza kuulima, usilime mahindi mara hii na ukalima tena mahindi, unageuza. Kwa sababu ukiweka mahindi mara hii na tena ukiweka mahindi mara ya pili, ule mchanga hauoneshi ya chakula kuboresha vizuri, unageuza. Na mchanga usiuvunje nguvu mara kwa mara, unaweka tinga, mara unakaa unaweka tinga, unaenda kwa kuangalia vile mchanga ulivyo. Na fertilizer, tumeonyeshwa ya kwamba kuna fertilizer ambazo zinatusaidia kama haya mavi ya ng'ombe na mavi ya mbuzi. Ukifuatilia sana na hii kuku kama unafuga, yale mavi yake kusaidika kwa mchanga wako, tunaona uko na rutuba ambao unaonesha unatusaidia.
So Jamila is saying the dissemination of knowledge to grassroots women on how to farm, especially in arid and semi-arid areas. So if you are planting, what she said is, if you are planting maize this season, don't do it next season. And that's not information that her community or farmers in her community have. So she feels that if grassroots communities are taught on how to do this farming to maintain and protect the soil and still be able to get something from the soil, she feels that that would be transformative for her and her community.
Thank you so much. I think, you know, when we are talking about, you know, in our professional languages, we talk about sustainable production, sustainable farming. I think that's what Jamila has just said, that there are ways we can do sustainable farming. And this tells us these rural women, the grassroots women, they know what needs to be done. You know how much we are talking about monoculture. How we have, is it called monoculture? The farming of one crop forever and ever, and how destructive it can be to the ecosystem. And that's what she's saying. Even at that farmland, they are trying to make sure they are not growing one crop all through and through. But also the fact that grassroots women understand that chemical fertilizer, it is not really sustainable for sustaining our ecosystem. And as she says that the responsibility is for me and you. We don't necessarily need to go point a finger to the people out far from us. It starts with us to restore land, but also to ensure that they are equitable, land, the land is shared equitably. And Sharon also talked about the role of grassroots women and what it would take for us to engage them, and so that they are at the center and the front of our work. Sharon, thank you very much. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Jamila. Sharon, you had a question?
I have a question to everyone who is in this room, because as I said that where I work, we have a community called the Karamoja community, and it's the same as the Maasai in Kenya and in Tanzania. So I posed the question yesterday, but I want to pose it to everyone again. Since land degradation and restoration has that cultural and spiritual ties, and according to them, the Karamoja, they say that it's because of the will of the gods that their land is degraded. So all the land actors in this room, what would you do to ensure that that mentality and mindset is reduced in this community? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. So we will have to ponder on it. How do we deal with the cultural and religious beliefs that are not helping us to fast track our efforts? So I think that's something we will ponder on. Thank you so much. I appreciate. You can take your seats. Let's clap for them, please. And as they sit down, I want to now invite another very critical group of speakers who are more working at the institution level, and they will be speaking to us about the work they are doing and how this is helping not only to secure women's land rights and improve land governance, but also to reduce degradation on our land. And the first one, I would invite Nadus Eshetu. Nadus is the program manager for the Stand for Land campaign in Ethiopia. And the second one, we are going to have Godfrey Mesa, who is the program director for LADESA in Tanzania. And LADESA is the campaign, so proudly part of LADESA. And the last, definitely not the least, and one of my favorite brothers, Odas Kubwamana, who is the Africa Regional Coordinator for the International Land Coalition, a big champion for women's land rights. I say that with confidence. Thank you so much, panelists. And I would want you to take your time, and the shortest time possible. Tell us your understanding on why really secure women land rights. Why does it matter in this topic we are talking about on dealing with land degradation? And what are the 2 or 3 things you can tell us your organization is doing that you are very proud of, and you can leave us as we listen to you? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nardos Shetu. I'm from Ethiopia. I'm working as project manager for Stand for Her Land campaign in Ethiopia. I'll start my presentation on the land degradation situation in Ethiopia and how Stand for Her Land work with to improve land degradation as well as to women land right in Ethiopia. So, as we all know, we are all aware, land degradation is a global issue. Also in Ethiopia, there is a huge land degradation due to rapid growth of population in Ethiopia and soil erosion and also deforestation. So to revert this process, land restoration is very important in Ethiopia. So Stand for Her Land campaign working on Ethiopia to realize women land rights. When we ensure women land rights, we can work, we can improve land restoration. So gender issue matters for land restoration. Stand for Her Land believes strongly improving gender matter, considering gender matter is very important for improving land restoration, because one of the reasons women has a right to participate in land restoration. And also gender consideration is very important to improve effectiveness and efficiency of land restoration activity. And gender consideration improve equality of women in land restoration. Women and men may differ in adoption of technologies. When we talk about land restoration, women can adopt differently and men can adopt differently. So we need to consider gender issue. And women and men also has a different initiative to restore land. Men has their own initiative, women has its own initiative to restore land. So that's why Stand for Her Land works strongly on gender issues and land restoration. The specific issues Stand for Her Land work in Ethiopia is to advocate access to land. We advocate for women to access land, to access water and seedlings. And Stand for Her campaign doing strongly on providing trainings and capacity building activity for women to enhance their knowledge and skills. Women needs technical skill, how to improve their land, and women to improve their power, their skill, their capacity. And Stand for Her Land campaign also doing strongly to access finance, to link finance support for women groups in Ethiopia. Stand for Her Land campaign work with different coalitions, more than 20 CSOs in Ethiopia. So Stand for Her campaign linked to tap this financial resource. And we are created networking and collaboration. All women can access this collective resource by creating collaboration and networking through Stand for Her Land campaign. Everybody can experience sharing and knowledge sharing each other. And Stand for Her Land campaign do a policy advocacy strongly. So we do have a lot of strong women from Ethiopia. This lady is called Alamitu. It's south region of Ethiopia. In that region there is a lot of degraded land due to the topography of the land, mountainous land. So she's a leader that area who leading the community women to restore her land and ensure their economies strongly. The issue is there is a lot of flood erosion in the area. So she's doing through mobilization of community, this terracing and different activities, coverage of trees. So she's women leader, one of the grassroots leader contacting through this campaign. So she is very good leader. So we need such kind of women for land restoration. Many leaders, many women leaders to restore in Ethiopian community degraded lands. So we are proud to work with great women leaders. Need more. In conclusion, my conclusion, I would like to say, if we promote, if you work, if you empower women, we can benefit a lot of the community. Empowering women means benefiting community. So we know that half of the population is women. So we can work with women highly, closely. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you for using your time so wisely. Thank you for that. And now I'll give to Godfrey to also share with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I think there is no need. I mean, women play a critical role, not just in our families and in our household, but equally so in the field. So if we ensure that they are tenure secured, then we ensure household security in terms of food, but also environmental security, because they will do farming in a very sustainable and the best way possible. and that also lead to prosperity, not just at the household level, but the entire society. Children will go to school, they will be less malnourished, gender-based violence will be certainly very low. How can you beat a woman who has a farm? It's quite impossible. But equally so, these women who have land and property rights do play critical roles in the decision-making bodies. Ask you a member of MPs or those that are leader of your village, those that are women, you will certainly notice that they have some property rights, including land. So there is that link. So in Tanzania, what Landesa does is that we support, and this is in relation to restoration of land. We do what we call land use planning. It's called participatory land use planning. What is happening is that villagers will come together, and with the support of technical people, mainly surveyors and mappers, to help them plan how they can use their land for the next 10 years. So they will take stock of their current need and project the future need. This includes taking stock of the degraded land, protected land, current land uses. And then after that process is done, they put in place rules of land governance and rules of compliance and enforcement. And then once rules are in place, then you do land ownership processes. So this entire process is very friendly in terms of the restoration processes, because it is in the rules of governance and enforcement that the villagers will identify degraded land, put in place actions, and then monitor the actions that they have put, which include restoration actions. And so our work has helped. We just recently concluded land use planning in 6 villages, and we plan to do additional 20 land use plannings. And the broader tableau is showing that over 48% of the beneficiaries of the certificates of land ownership are women. But through that process, we have been able to protect land that over 1,000 acres of lands that are degraded have been put into the restoration processes. So that process is organically helping land restoration, and we are doing all this with view of other regional, country-specific, and global efforts that we are using and to push the agendas of land ownership for women. For example, AU has in place a target by 2025, at least 30% of women in the countries have land ownership. That is something that we are also using. SDGs has also in place some specific targets and goals in which land is in it. There is a momentum to collect data of people who are owning land, and by that these data has to be in place by sex, and so they are going to help to push the agenda of land security for women. And there are other agendas or efforts that just took place. For example, Kilimanjaro initiatives. GEF, Generational Equality Forum, has now a target specific goal around land and property rights, and we are leveraging this to push. So this is a right time to really talk more about women land tenure security, and to do it is very critical for restorations. Thank you so much.
So much, Godfrey. I will go to Odas.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Odas Kubgimana. I work for the international. I think, Esther, your question is as simple as this. We believe in women and rights because these are human rights. Actually, you can put a full stop before we even go into details. But unfortunately, it's not as easy as it is said, and reasons is, I think, what we should really be looking at. Why is it that we all, I don't think there is anyone who doubt about that definition, that women rights are human rights. But why is it that the woman why is it that she had to negotiate with men? I think that's really where the issue stays. And I will not discuss how women rights or land tenure is critical for land restoration. I think that has been demonstrated several times. But what we should really be looking at is, why is it that we don't achieve women rights, yet we all recognize these are human rights, and these are critical factors if we are to achieve sustainable land restoration. So the reasons are many, and Esther has raised one very critical issue, social norms, and our sister from Uganda has asked a critical question about the Karamoja and their beliefs, and actually those are really social norms. And there I think it's where we need to tackle. How do we challenge our cultural practices, our beliefs? How do we decolonize our thinking that actually is keeping us behind? So at ILC, we push for women rights because they are human rights, but there is another reason, a very strong reason. Because our mandate is to promote people-centered land governance. And you will agree with me that they can't be people-centered land governance if this is not women-centered. We are talking about half of the population, of the world population, that is actually being denied their rights to land. So the simple, you cannot achieve people-centered if it's not women-centered, because this is half of the population. So for us, that's one strong reason why we believe to achieve people-centered governance, it has to be women-centered. And how we do it as a coalition of about 300 members worldwide and 95 members across 28 countries in Africa. We organize, our members organize in what we call national land coalitions at country level. But we also have what we call regional platforms. And one of them is only on women land rights. Members who have come together across the continent to only engage on women land rights, to be in spaces like this one, to be in several spaces advocating for women land rights, to work on capacity building for women organizations on matters women land rights, to discuss a question like the one that our sister from Uganda raised. How do we challenge norms? How do we challenge practices that really work against women land rights? So that platform is really an advocacy platform. It has really, I think, and it's not in that context that ILC is also part of Stand for Land campaign. In the context of that platform, but also at country level, we want all our national coalition to be women land rights champions, and with that, we really want to make sure we serve half of the world population and ensure they also have access, they also have rights to land. I want to say one last thing. There was an issue of access, control, and ownership. I really want to say that access is not enough. I think we should actually avoid aiming at access. And then the question is, how is that access secure? So now that men have agreed that women can use the land, how is that secure? What if tomorrow they say we need that land back, especially when they realize that that land is productive? So access is not what we really should fight for. We should fight for ownership and control. And that is really very critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, access is not enough. We need control. It may be the first step. But if we don't go beyond access, then we might be putting the women who are putting their effort in danger, because it can anyway be taken away. And we have what we call the backlash of women's empowerment. So sometimes the land may not be of use to anyone, but immediately the women puts resources to it and it shows its productivity, the entire community start to claim it. So those are things that we need to be very careful. We are hearing the many initiatives that people are doing. I want to give the audience a chance to ask questions. And if you have something you know about that is happening from where you come from, that is supporting women to access, control, and own land, and that it has a critical element on improving degraded land or stopping land from further degradation, you can share with us in one sentence so that we also hear from the people before I go back to the panel. And I want to say who want to take an opportunity to share something. Anyone else? Let me see a show of hands who want to ask a question or share.
Thank you so much, Esther. My name is Constance Teej, and I am the country director for Landesa, and Godfrey is my colleague. I just wanted to share very quickly what has been helping in terms of supporting or reducing land degradation. In Liberia, in 2018, a very progressive law was passed. It's called the Land Rights Act, and it gives the control of customary land or majority of the land in Liberia back to rural communities and indigenous communities. And so this is the first time in the 176 years of Liberia's history that that rural communities are allowed to actually own their land. What is very good about this law is it gives, as you stated, access, control, and ownership back to women. It's not only just access. Before there wasn't access, and now women can decide what they want to do with their land, and I believe that's going to support restoration efforts. Part of what I am learning here is the importance of integrating restoration within land rights when it comes to sort of mitigating the impact of climate change. And so I just wanted to share that. If anybody is interested in reading about the Land Rights Act, is one of the most progressive land rights law in Africa, and it's really supporting women's ownership in Liberia. So I was just like to share that.
Anyone else with a question to the presenter? Or want to share something? Monica, you want to say something? Okay. So I just want to come back to the panelists. And in many of the countries, especially in this continent, data still shows less than 10% of women own and control land. I think only in Rwanda that percentage could go far. We are, of course, seeing countries documenting 10%. I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts? Where is it that we need to do more? What should we do more to accelerate control and ownership of land by women?
Thank you, Esther. I will start, and I think it will be hard to find a policy or a law that denies women rights to land. So if you ask me, it will be very hard to find one. But you will find a lot of practices that are against women rights to land. I think we really need to fix the practices. And that is, in other terms, we need to push for policy implementation, because we have policies, but we have no one cares about implementation. And probably that is one thing that Rwanda probably has done well. You see, there is a law that says you cannot sell your land without the consent of your spouse. But then everyone allows people to sell without necessarily applying that law. So it comes really to how are we serious with the laws that we have in terms of implementing them. And I think this is an area where everyone can play a role. It's not only about officials, it's also about it's also the role of activists to make sure that these laws are really respected. So in short, if you ask me, we have a challenge in how serious we are with our laws more than the laws themselves. And the second point, I think, with laws and probably goodwill in terms of putting them in practice, we face cultural barriers and spiritual barriers. And sometimes these are used as pretext for men to really deny women rights to land. So I think we need to be bold when it comes to challenging some cultural and beliefs. And this also takes political will, but also some activism. And I think we need to tackle this together. Policy implementation, but also being bold when it comes to challenging some of the things that we call traditional, we call cultural, but they are keeping us behind.
Thank you.
What is coming up in my mind is there is certainly need for resource allocation. And this has to be government resource. Most of the land implementation, you will attest that they are donor kind of funded projects that have a very shorter time frame and with limited financial resources from the government budget. Because there is no seriousness in facilitation of land implementation and land ownership by the government, which is why the process is really taking much longer time. The other thing, I think with capacity building, I think a lot has been done, but let's showcase the successes. In the events where those that are owning land, we are seeing changes. I think that is helping to change that perceptions. Because in some cases you will all agree that women themselves have either feared or collaborated with men to support the process of, like, I can't own, I don't think it's necessary. So they kind of supported the patriarchy in that process. But if we are showing cases where this is helping and it is changing perspective, that is going to help. And lastly, on the data part, now there is an opportunity to not only collect data that are coming from documentary evidence, but data from perception. There are people who are owning land with certificates who still feel tenure insecure, and those with no certificate but who are feeling secured. Those that are in town in areas where there are developments, they feel very vulnerable even if they have their certificates. So collect data not just beyond documentation but with perception. But lastly, the government should collect these data from their national statistical bodies on a regular basis and by sex. Because sometimes when you go to the government, they are not sex desegregated. They will tell you it's not our interest. What we need is the data of who are owning land, how many people. It's not upon us to tell you, it's women, young men, pastoralists. That is not their business. So they should start collecting data on that. That's my footnotes contribution into that. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with ideas of my panelists, and I want to add we need more attitudinal change, including women's. The change comes from inside to outside. We need outside work, and women should see her capability, her impact, potential in herself, and she should work on herself. Women should think on themselves to use every opportunity women should use every opportunity to promote, to ask, to require her land. So awareness raising and behavioral change, attitudinal change is very important to change the world reality.
So we need the money. We need money to do the work. The work is a lot. It requires money. The next Commission on Status of Women. Do people know what is the UN Commission on Status of Women? So every year, our governments convene in New York in March. And every year, they are looking back and reflecting on what gender agenda they have fulfilled, what commitments they have fulfilled. And they set the agenda for the next commission. It happens every year, right? This year, that is 2024, March, we'll be talking about financing gender equality. So all of us are talking about where is the envelope. Because like you heard, they're struggling to ask for land. They have to negotiate to get for land. What will help us to implement all the laws? We need money. He talked about data. We need data because to convince the men, to convince the world, to convince our government, we need data. And not just data that is disaggregated. We need more and more on enhancing the capacities of women. I am one believer that women have so much capacity. Women on the ground, rural, indigenous, grassroots women have so much capacity. The problem we have, the way we run our projects, it denies them their power. It doesn't give them the opportunity to surface their capacities, to surface that power. And so we need to enhance that capacity so that the women are able to demand for their rights, so that they are able to showcase. And I like the idea of showcasing. And I think what Sharon and others are reminding us, the major barriers are actually not the laws. In fact, one of the things in the Start for That campaign, I say, if I go to a negotiation table with a government that is looking for money or an NGO on to write or review a law related to women led governance, I always want to say what is happening in that country. Because I'm a believer that we have so much laws, we must have so much policies, we have so much international agreements and commitments that if they were implemented, we would advance gender equality. Women would have money. Does it mean we will not produce new laws? Of course, yes, we will. But priority is let's implement what we have so far, and as we go on, we can develop and review the laws that are existing. So those are some of the things that I'm hearing. And I want to come to you again as the panelists. And I want all of you to answer these questions. We are watching what is happening globally with the climate crisis. Wars are the biggest degrader of our land. Do we all believe that? Wars and conflict are also situations that degrade our lands. The wars, the conflicts, the climate. We are going to see much more of degraded land than we have seen before. I can see as G20, we want to reduce the degraded land by 50%. But the situation is very, very, very difficult to have a positive attitude because climate change is with us here. Wars and conflict are escalating. I'm just asking myself, what is it, the thing that really, and call, don't say this is what we should do. I want you to say, this stakeholder should do this. Mention the stakeholder and say exactly what they should do. And I want to start with this group. What do we want us to do? Who is that stakeholder you want to do something to accelerate, control, ownership of land by women in order for us to fulfill that ambitious target? Anyone who has an idea whose stakeholder we should? I see a smiling face there.
Impressed by the young woman. I think we should have such models in our community because she said that she has a passion for farming, and I don't think in Ghana I would find a young lady who will tell me that she has a passion for farming. So how do we tag such young women to serve as models for our communities so that we can promote sustainable farming?
Fantastic. So surface, inspire more young women who have passion and perhaps give them resources. She said she got land from her parent. Without land, she wouldn't be doing what. So thank you so much. Anyone else?
To me, I think we should work closely with the cultural leaders because they're the custodians of the law, so they can encourage the community to do activities that would help in sustainability of land.
Okay. So target more cultural leaders and religious leaders so that they engage in this sector. We have another hand here. Excuse me, we have this one and this one here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just, it's a concern. I'm just wondering, in this talk, we are talking about women land rights, and in the real sense, where I come from, or maybe from the indigenous communities, do women even know what is women land rights? Especially me, I'm here now representing my community. Do I even know what it is?
Propose to us what we should do and tell us who should do that.
What we should do is that we act now. We reach out to the women and tell them what the women land rights is. Thank you.
Fantastic. Do more on advocacy and awareness so that women can appreciate.
She said literally exactly what I was about to say, which is for a woman to be able to participate, she needs to know that she has the right to own land, right? So in our respective country, what are the laws that give women the right to own land? We need to raise awareness on those laws, and we need to empower women to be able to advocate for themselves. In a lot of countries, women have been left out of the discussion of land, and then all of a sudden there are laws now that says women can own land. Are they comfortable enough to sit or to stand and advocate for themselves? So there is a need to work with women to empower them so that they can advocate for themselves, which is why I love the work that Stand for Her Land campaign is doing.
Enhancing the capacity. I have 3 hands there and the fourth one. Yes, those 3 and then the fourth one here.
Thank you. For me, I think it's really all hands on deck. And there's an event that I attended where a lady from Vihiga County here in Kenya, and I think Esther, you are there, the lady from Shibuye community. And the model that I think she proposed is something that sort of sits between, like a bridge between the policy which you rightly said we have in abundance and implementation on the ground. What she worked with a group of people, all stakeholders within the county in wide consultation to do what they called community-led land lease guidelines, which basically sort of details like if you're going to lease land, whether to women or to youth, these are sort of right steps you need to take. So can we consider initiatives like that? Can we do like land succession guidelines, you know, done in consultation with all stakeholders within the community, the men, the women, maybe the traditional leaders, the formal government leaders, so that it's owned by all these stakeholders and see if this can then bridge this gap we are talking about between the policies that are already there and their implementation on the ground.
Fantastic. So flagging those homegrown initiative by local communities and really investing in them so that they can be scaled out and scaled up. Because if they are not scaled, then they just remain one. And you are reminding me in 2000 and early 2000, before this country had anything to do with alternative dispute resolution mechanisms to do with land, we started what it was called then community-led watchdog groups. And when our CJ, our Chief Justice, was was driving the country to have alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, the community-led watchdog groups became the model that gave life to those alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. So two things. We need to surface these community-led initiatives. We need to document them. We need to publicize them. We need even to make sure that they are scaled, but we need to mainstream them into the formal processes. I think that's very critical, right?
Okay. To me, I feel that also we need to work with schools, with teachers, such that when they are teaching, they use the gender responsive pedagogy so that these students, as they are growing, they know that even girls have equal rights to them. So that one will be able to counter when they're already grown. So from the school level, boys and girls should know that they have equal rights so that we can be able to break this barrier.
Thank you. Here, and then last lady.
Mine was just to hold the government accountable, because we do, as everyone has said many times, the policies are there, the laws are there, but it feels as if land is not a priority for the government. Because even as we talk about very remote areas or very rural areas, even them, there are some things that they know about. In many places you will go to, they know about anti-FGM, and they will lie. In fact, even when you're trying to uproot things about FGM, they know that it is against the law. But in these very same spaces, when you talk about land and how women are supposed to own land, and they are supposed to, you cannot take land away from them, especially when you talk about inheritance between brothers, they claim to not know. So why is it that there are some laws that are being prioritized even in remote areas and others are not? So it's about prioritizing these laws, ensuring that even the remotest communities are aware that these land rights are real rights. It's not, as much as culture is there, the Constitution has stepped on harmful cultural practices in the past, and this is a harmful cultural practice. So it needs to be taken as a priority. Thank you.
And I think as civil society, I like this. We need to politicize land. We really need to do more and politicize land and look for political allies that, just like we see them talk about FGM, GBV, was that we will see many politicians speaking about land rights as part of their work. Then we have, I can see one more hat, but this was the first one. Here. And then last is Eva. The lady in red, yes.
Asanteni, mimi naenda kutumia Kiswahili. Kwa area yetu kama ya Baringo, tunatoka Tiati huku ndani kwa jamii ya wafugaji. Maneno ya land hatuna, sisi tunaishi kila mahali. Sasa hakuna vile utarithi mahali mzee amekataa. Unaamuka saa hii unahama. Kurudisha hiyo maneno ya ardhi, tunahitaji usaidizi, mtufunze, mtuelekeze penye watu wako. Asanteni.
So she said that for pastoralists, it's a very, very difficult discussion. And because for them, they don't live in one place, and the land is owned by men. So even as we talk about how to address this issue, let's remember the context of some of the very difficult situations, like for pastoralists, and she comes from Baringo, Tiati in Baringo. And so she says if they get more awareness, education, and get to be included in these discussions, it will be helpful. Eva.
Thanks. My point is related to politicizing land. I think beyond politicizing, we need to institutionalize women land rights. The reason why this is important is because we want to make it, we want our leaders, our communities to make very deliberate actions towards implementing women land rights. And beyond that, that this culture of advancing women land rights is sustainable and lives on and on. Whatever you do, in everything you do, you are aware that you need to be able to take into account women land rights. So we need to really institutionalize this concept.
So I think that's very good. And institutionalize in different ways. So if you are an organization that does forestry, please talk about security of women's land rights. If you deal with landscape and organizing landscape for sustainability, please talk about women's land rights, because it's there. If you are pastoralists and looking at the issues of pastoralists and indigenous community, please remember that even among the indigenous community and the pastoralists, secure women's land right is one of the most thorny issues. If you are a farmer, institutionalize that. But it's also institutionalizing it within the public systems. So, and I would like to say that the government of Uganda, the government of Kenya, at least those two, I know they are in the process of reviewing their national land laws. It's ongoing. If you are a Kenyan and you are not participating, this morning there was a meeting at Safari Park for people to give memorandum of understanding, and the deadline is 17th of October. Please do. I was in the meeting on Monday, and what I heard was a bit worrying, because every time you say about women's land rights, I was told, somebody said, and by the way, don't be too much about women's land rights. There are also other land rights of other people. And I said it's not about women's land rights has to be reduced so that we can deal with indigenous people's rights. No, it's not like that. We need to talk about women's land rights with equal measure, like the indigenous people's land rights, youth land rights. Let's not allow any time we talk about women's land rights, we are told, and beyond women's land rights, we have youth. Of course, yes, but they are all equal, right? So let's also participate. There is climate change that is coming. The COP is coming. Please let's institutionalize women's land rights. UNCCD and us will be doing a lot of work there, a lot of influence on positioning women's land rights within the climate discourse. So I want to now turn to my... What are your thoughts? I'm sure you have so many thoughts. I would ask 3 questions, but I am refusing to ask any question to you. What is your closing? What would be your... This is what I want to leave these participants to remember of this session.
Thank you very much. Two points. One, I want to react on the issue that was raised about awareness raising for women. Sometimes I'm a bit reluctant to accuse the victim. I think we need more awareness raising for men. They are the ones causing this problem. And I really congratulate GROOTS, because I visited their fields last week and I saw what they call men champions. This is something we need to scale up. If we want really to get rid of this problem of denying women their rights to land, it's not really raising. It's not that women don't know that they need or they even deserve land. It's somewhere else that someone has actually even made them believing that they don't. That same person who has made women believing that they don't deserve land is the one to address. And that is, in my opinion, the man, myself and other men. So we need to, we are the ones who need more awareness raising. Last point is, I want to make this statement. If there is a better way to build women agents, especially in the rural areas, is to bring about women land rights. And if you want to be a feminist, champion for women land rights. That's the best way to become a feminist, to champion for women land rights.
For men in this room, please make sure your daughter, your wife has a land. Make sure they own land. That is for men. And the second, support locally led initiatives, but start with your own house there and the surrounding area and the village. If you see any degraded land there, make sure it is restored. I think if we do all of us do that, we are going to fix this thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to add, let's trust the community to resolve these challenges, and let us collaborate. We need to collaborate. Every effort should be coordinated and collaborated. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's clap for our panelists. And clap for yourself. You all contributed. I'm very excited. So like I said, we did not host this event for the sake of hosting this event. As you can see that the G20 Global Ad Initiative, which we are, it doesn't belong to anyone else. It belongs to all of us, right? That we have an ambitious target to make. A Stand for Highland campaign, we continue to push for secure women's land rights and for governments and civil society to organize themselves to implement related laws. As you heard, ILC has been in existence. Continue to organize and to advocate for people-centered land governance and women's land rights being central to their work. LADESA is incredibly doing massive amount of work. Actually, you know what? Yesterday, a publication came out of LADESA. Please look at it. It talks about the life cycle of a woman and her relationship with land rights. It's amazing. It's beautiful. If you can't access it, please ask me. I'll share it with you. It's wonderful. It will get you to understand how to even confront people when they don't understand about secure women's land rights. It tells you a girl child, what really happens, what are those things critical for her to own land. A girl like Julia, a woman who is giving birth at that age, middle woman, at the old age, how are women impacted by insecure land rights? So you see a woman's cycle from birth to death and how the women's land rights is implicating on them. So it's a beautiful publication. Please look for it. And if you need access, I'm happy to share it with you. So without much ado, thank you so much. If you are going to be in COP28, we are going to be in UNCCD Pavilion in COP28, still talking about secure women's land rights. We are going to be in IFAD Pavilion, as usual, talking about women's land rights. And we are going to be in many governments' pavilion, talking about securing women's land rights. So look for us. We are also looking to be in the African Union Pavilion. And we are going to be there talking about women's land rights. So we are not going to stop here. We are going to do more and more because the work is not yet done. Right? And let's all join. So I want to invite all of us for a group picture up front here because we value your presence. You could have chosen to be anywhere else. Please join us here for a beautiful group picture.